What's going on, everybody? It's High Scholar here, back at it again, trying to do more and more of these. This is gonna be a little different than stuff that I'm used to doing, just because this is more of a opinion piece, you could say. And honestly, I'm just kind of tired of it. That's part of the reason why I want to speak on it. Like, it's really gotten old, and as you guys see with the picture and the title of the video, like Steve Harvey and recently had an interview with Shannon Sharp and had a chance to get a clip from it. Plan on going back and delve into it more, but it's kind of the same rigmarole over and over again. The same kind of pros, the same kind of idea all the time. Um, and really, the purpose of me having this conversation is really to kind of show this is a split now. Like there's a time before there's a land before time at this point. There's a time period in which the way that Steve Harvey talked and saw the world and engaged with the world made sense. Or at least it was okay to just spout off at the mouth what he's saying. Like it used to be okay for black men, black women, and anybody else who had a platform to really get on TV, get on radio, get on these different platforms and really start to, using a cultural term, undress black men and tell us who we is and who we ain't, and tell us what we've been doing and ain't been doing, and tell us all these things that before 2017, before July 2017, it was all everything was cool, everything was okay. You could talk about black men in this colloquial, on the porch, in the barbershop, in the armchair, in the salon kind of way, and nobody would check you. Nobody would say anything to you. Everything would be seen as cool. July 17th, the man not drops, and you have this, and it's really an indicator, but it's the seminal work that begins this black male studies conversation, also spurns off and is really birthed out of even other conversation about black masculinity, what it means to be an outgroup male. Like all this stuff is now even coming more into the popular. It's been around, but now it's coming to the popular in a way that more and more when you hear a Steve Harvey, he's going to sound crazy because he didn't say anything that was steeped in data. He didn't say anything that was steeped in evidence. He just said some armchair quarterbacking that even he himself hasn't lived by prior to this age. But he's trying to play, well, I know now, and I am better than you as a rich black man in America, so listen to me. But prior to this time period, into this era, what he said would just fly. Like it would just go under the radar, or go go not just under the radar, but go and be published in these different avenues, and not only in a video, but Jet would pick it up, Ebony, BET, all these places would pick it up, and it would be seen as Steve Harvey, another black man trying to hold black men accountable, trying to speak to what black men need to be aspiring to. But now we're at a place where post pandemic is when this video drops. That it just sounds way more hollow. It sounds way more. You really want to do this for your own bravado and ego. You're not steeped in the data that people are now bringing to the forefront about black boys as much as black men. So you as a black man are really engaging in the same type of narrativizing and even I dare say bullying on a social group level, because the statistics and data around what black men are experiencing as much as what they are trying to overcome doesn't speak to the way that you embody them. And like I said before, my purpose here is to really say the man not change the way we talk about black boys and black men. Like you can't just talk about us as an aberration anymore and get your rocks off. You used to be able to do that, and it was like if you have any hate in your heart, like Dave Chappelle said, let it out. And people used to let it out on black men. There's some other populations and identities that I do recognize would also be infolded in that conversation. I know as a person that I am that if you hate and talk about black men a certain way, give it a little more time, tick, 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 you're going to talk about black women the same way or in some kind of way similar. You have anti-blackness when you have either misandry or misogyny. It's good. That's how I see it. But people like Steve Harvey know that like black men are low hanging fruit when it comes to talking about us in mass, talking about us as a group, as an identity group. You know, compared to any other group. There's a secondary, there's not secondary, but there's another group that will fall into our communal group that gets the brunt of just on TV, on radio. You can talk about them as a whole group and people will listen. But let's not be fooled that black men are the group. You can come on TV, have never said anything or never did any advocating, have never really done anything for the community of black boys and men, but then now say, but I do know this. They're angry, they're thugs, they're these things, they're thieves and criminals, these kind of broad sweeping archetypes, stereotypes that people have all accepted widely. And Steve Harvey is only perpetuating it with his prose about you ain't got you ain't got to expect this. But who are you to say so on and so forth? Well, this goes back to pre-2017. Even though we knew black men and black boys were human, you didn't have to speak of us in that way. You could feel comfortable just spouting off and rattling off what we is and ain't, as I said before, without ever fact-checking yourself. The idea of fact-checking anything around black boys and men seems absurd. Why would we even fact-check something when we know them? We know them to this degree because ain't nobody showed me different. Oh, I'm different. Don't get me wrong. I'm different. I'm the exception to the rule. However, broadly, none of these Negroes have showed me that they're any different than I am. That old guard is just that. It's an old guard. And we're going to be seeing this old guard show his face over and over again. To me, it is ugliest when it comes from people who are part of the group. But hey, I've studied history long enough. I've studied psychology long enough to understand why these people will exist. They will continue to exist. And believe it or not, the numbers and their propensity and their intensity will only go up. So as you continue to hear people who talk like Steve Harvey and even go beyond where he's going to talk about holding black men accountable and who we are and who we can't be, what we can and cannot say as far as dating, relationships, which is, again, not my bag all the time, but I wanted to make sure in this conversation we recognize and call out that Steve Harvey is representing the old guard in media of how you could talk about black boys and men. Now, you're even seeing people with that same level of critique have to come with something. You got to give me a study, even if it's by some biased research group, that's going to validate and verify what you're saying, because otherwise you sound like you're trying to ignore facts as much as just spout bigoted hate speech into the ethos of media and popular culture. While that used to fly back in the day, while that used to fly so easily prior to the pandemic and prior to 2017, I'm here as much as anybody else is here who's a black male studies scholar, engages with the black manosphere, engages with anything that involves black masculinity and black manhood or maleness. We are all here to say, hey, bruh, it's not flying like you thought it would. You're not just about to get more clicks and clickbait off the back of us, but just by saying our names, just by saying us as a group, and by saying that you're an exception. So, my message to anybody like Steve Harvey, hey, go ahead and get your bags and your coins now, because there are going to be more and more conversations and articles directed to your comments, to your lectures, to your interviews, when you start to go down this rabbit hole of all praise me being the better man, black man, than this other raggedy Negroes who ain't done what I done, who ain't accomplished what I done accomplished. Like, it's almost like these dudes are not okay with being the exception to the rule. Like, I didn't know you had to be so down-putting to be successful, to be a scholar, to be a successful engineer, to be a lawyer, to be a scientist, to be a famous comedian. I didn't know you had to put other niggas down, Negroes down, the way that I'm seeing them do. But I understand, because I've engaged with research as much as lived my life, that has become a product of navigating the white supremacist society that now has taken on both feminism and black feminism and radical feminism and black radical feminism. This is all the things that have now befallen our society. So those kind of conversations, Steve sees as like, hey, this is fair course. This is me just trying to get my message out. He's had a history of this. I've been around long enough to know between this comedian and movie star dabbling in writing books about relationships and dating and all these things. This is par for the course for what he does. But let's be reminded, as I keep saying, and it's the purpose of what I'm saying, this is the old guard. People who listen to this and appreciate what he's saying, there's some things there that can be, I guess, moderately admirable. but they're moderately admirable because they have some hints of traditionalism. But even in that tradition, there were error. There were errors in the way we saw both men and women and what their purpose was as human beings. And if you agree to the black male part of what Steve Harvey is saying, he also believes some other things about black women that he knows now are probably not, the best thing to say out in public, but I'm sure they come along with these feelings. Like these are not, people want to have these puzzle piece feelings when it's kind of like, no. If you start following some correlations and trends, for all the people that you see espouse this, deep vitriol for what black men is and ain't and what they is and ain't doing, you'll start digging deeper and deeper and start realizing there's a same kind of vitriol for black women and what they is and ain't doing. So be very wary of supporting these old guards, supporting these baseless, evidenceless, without any kind of regard for reality, but just want to tell you something. They got something on their heart. They got something there's just a message for you, and that's what Steve Harvey is on in this case, especially about black boys and black men. I just had to get that off, something really quick. Y'all take it easy. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Peace.